Obey. 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 Obey.
I will obey. What are my instructions?
You must prepare a way for the Daleks to enter your position in time and space.
Understood. What must I do?
It is required that you put about 50 mirrors in a cupboard.
What, is that it?
Yeah, no. Put 50 mirrors in a cupboard and then do something with static electricity.
Static electricity?
Yes, that is correct.
What'll that do? Care to explain?
It will allow us to appear in the cupboard.
Why?
Do not question.
But why?
Do not question!
Why?
Silence! Your insubordination will not be tolerated. This is a fan-favorite story, and we will not have you questioning its logic. You will
50
obey!
mirrors. Yep. And one more mirror should do it. So, we finally arrived at the finale to Season 4. We began this season with the first Doctor's demise at the hands of the Cybermen, and the second Doctor facing off against his nemesis, the Daleks. And we're going to end the season with the second Doctor facing off against his nemesis, the Daleks. Again, what's next? Another Cyberman story? Oh, cool. For now, however, we'll be taking a look at a fan-favourite 7-part serial from 1967, The Evil of the Daleks. Not to be confused with The Power of the Daleks like I did when I bought the wrong DVD, but then again, I'm just an idiot. Of the 7 episodes, only episode 2 survives, and thankfully, we have a modern, official, animated release to enjoy. This is a rather recent release, and it was the first time I decided, screw it, sure the Blu-ray might look ugly amongst my DVD shelves, and yes, it does, but I wanted to get the best possible version I could. Unfortunately, as regular viewers may already know, I couldn't get the true best version because that amazing steelbook was just so darn expensive and borderline inaccessible here in New Zealand. I've said it many times before, but $94 on top of shipping, it's just not worth it. So I just have to settle for the standard release that comes out months after the UK and even weeks after Australia, and you know, living on the bottom of the world is a bit of a chore sometimes. Also, this cover sucks. I hate it. Most people hate the standard covers, but unlike most overseas releases, there's no reversible slipcase on the inside to make it match up with some of the other releases, so once again, just gotta settle for ugly. Right, now that I've got all the superficial whinging out of the way, like most of the modern classic Doctor Who releases, we've got 3 different ways of watching it this time. The first is on disc 1, which is a small aspect ratio black and white animation with optional episode 2 inserted. Lame. Then disc 2, you've got the far superior, full colour, full screen, HD widescreen presentation. That's based. And then on disc 3, you've got the telesnap reconstruction and more special features. It's there. Something I admire about The Evil of the Daleks is it picks up exactly where the faceless ones left off. Like the end of the last episode pretty much went, goodbye Ben, goodbye Polly, best of luck to you both. Alright Jamie, someone's only gone and nicked the TARDIS, let's go find it. And then this one literally begins with them running down the runway from the previous episode, chasing after a truck and trailer with the TARDIS on the back. A word of warning to manage your expectations, because I wouldn't blame you if while you were watching this you started to wonder, is this even a Dalek story or not? Oh, they do show up, but kinda is just a minor role for the first few episodes. In fact, the story as a whole is a bit random, up until I think episode 5 is where it really starts to get going. Not to talk bad about the first half of the story, it's fine and just compelling enough to keep you invested as long as you don't question the often bonkers logic. But again, if you came to see a purely Dalek-centric story, you're probably going to be left pretty impatient. Let me quickly break down the first 5 episodes for you, shall I? There's a mystery. Who stole the TARDIS? Oh, it's that guy. Oops, we're unconscious. Now we've woken up in an 18th century villa. hey look, here's some random side characters to be killed off by Daleks suddenly. Ah, Daleks, scary. Let's go and put Jamie through a little test or a trial to rescue a damsel in distress to hopefully distill the human factor. Did you follow that? Well, if not, I promise it's easy enough to follow in the episodes, being quite predictable at times. That is, until we get the Daleks imbued with the human factor that are essentially children. I was staring at the screen, jaw open, in disbelief while watching that.
It's a game, Jamie! They're playing a game! Oh, now what is it? Oh, we're on the roundabout! They're playing roundabouts! Oh, I'm getting dizzy! Oh dear! Oh, I'm dizzy!
That almost lost me. Sure, I did end up slipping into a COVID-induced nap immediately after that scene, but it's just one of those things you gotta chalk it up to a goofy classic sci-fi moment where you just gotta throw your hands up and say, you know what, it's goofy as heck, but I don't hate it. After my nap, I resumed viewing, and I'm pretty sure episodes 6 and 7 are where this serial gets its stellar reputation from, because, whoo! We get to see the real Skaro, homeworld of the Daleks, for the first time. And yes, I do mean the real Skaro that we all know and love, not just a background set on an inside studio. Proper red planet, smoke and flames billowing out of cracks in the ground. The animation doesn't hold back. Some great double-crossing reveals where it turns out the Doctor was tricked into helping the Daleks not only distill the essence of the human factor, but also suss out the Dalek factor. Its sinister purpose I'll not spoil for you here. What I can't go without mentioning is the Dalek Emperor. Oh man, what a cool design. I watched the 15-minute behind-the-scenes interview with the guy who designed the Emperor's Dalek room chamber and that whole set when he was only 23, and damn did that kid do some incredible work. Why did it take them until the 2005 revival series to reuse the Dalek Emperor again? Oh, well, you know, aside from obvious reasons. Actually, the whole human factor thing reminded me a lot of that lone Dalek absorbing some of Rose Tyler's DNA in the 2005 revival series as well. Anyway, back to the Dalek Emperor. Way to add some scale to the Dalek hierarchy. Sure, the Dalek Supremes and the black-domed Daleks versus the grey ones, and then there's the gold Daleks and the red Daleks, etc. They've all got their higher authority, but they're more or less essentially just recoloured versions of a base Dalek. But this guy, you do not want to mess with this guy. Even if we technically never see him move in The Evil of the Daleks, or even the 2005 series, doesn't really do anything. Nevertheless, just his mere presence is enough to sell you on the fact that, yeah, you don't mess with him. Oh, I tell you, it all comes together to form a climactic showdown that makes the 4 or 5 episodes of average viewing beforehand well worth it. There's a lot I haven't talked about, mostly because I just don't want to, but to be fair, my throat is still recovering from the old Roni-virus, so yeah, there's a couple of things I missed out, mostly side characters, like this guy. He doesn't talk. But one major character I do have to talk about is Victoria. You see, back in my Rescue and Romans reviews, I kept referring to Vicky as Victoria until one of my loyal viewers pointed out that there is actually a companion coming up called Victoria. This is her. She doesn't get anything major to do in this story. She's pretty much just a prisoner needing to be rescued. She's the damsel in distress that Jamie had to rescue from earlier. But she's our newest TARDIS companion, which means we've got a Doctor with 2 different companions from 2 very different points of history that aren't from the 60s. Well, technically Victoria's from the 1860s, but you know what I mean. They're not from, like, modern day London or modern when the show came out. They're not from 1960s. They've proven so far with Jamie that the writing's not just going to be like, oh, what does this do, Doctor? Oh, me stupid, oh. Like, no, far from it. So far, it's been a little bit of light comedy, but for the most part, it's been presented earnestly. So, needless to say, in the end, all the Daleks are destroyed, and I'll spare you the big info dump, but believe me, there's a long story being condensed here. So, long story short, this was originally intended to be the final end of Daleks in Doctor Who. It wasn't. So before we wrap things up, let's just speed run through some last minute notes on this serial. First up, always a point of contention for me, the animation. It's remarkably unremarkable, with one scene involving a candlelight illuminating a dark corridor being the exceptional exception. There are a few cool details, though, which I have to imagine weren't in the original and are just the animators having fun. For instance, a piece of Dalek machinery with a timer on it, and as the timer's ticking down, we see that it's measuring time in rels instead of seconds, which I seem to remember from, like, the modern Season 2 climax with the Daleks versus the Cybermen, when they're like, rewind image by 9 rels, so that's cool. I don't know where else to mention this, I forgot to mention it last time, but in the background of the faceless ones, there's a wanted poster for the Master. Just weird. There was also the return of the very specific waving in front of a panel on the door to open the door from one of the earlier Dalek episodes. You know, crucial that we got that right. Time for some Dalek lore. So, the little critters inside of the casings this time are seen to be little green bubbly puddles of goo with tendrils. And I don't know where the claw from the very first Dalek story went, but never seen that again. And it's kind of cool to see them slowly resembling what we know them to be in later episodes, if that makes sense. I don't know why, I kind of just wanted to poke one. Just touch the little bubbly green goo and... I sneezed and now I've got a COVID headache. What else? A character doesn't immediately die from a Dalek laser beam blast. I know Daleks have got like a different power setting to paralyze enemies. But no, in this case, he lasered the crap out of him with intent to kill, but the guy, he didn't die. He got a big dramatic speech before eventually croaking. It's not very fair, is it? Everyone else that ever gets shot with a Dalek dies pretty much straight away, and he gets to, say goodbye to Victoria for me. Take care of her. Oh yes, here's a shopping list as well. The Daleks themselves, not particularly threatening this time. I suppose you could excuse that with the fact that they needed the Doctor and humans' help for a while, but they're not particularly clever either. And not just the children Daleks either, no. There's one point in one of the last episodes where 2 Daleks enter a prison cell with all our main characters in. They deliver some important information to each other that should probably be kept secret, and then they just leave. Or how about my favourite scene? Alright, you lot, do as you're told. Why? Frickin' excuse me? Who said that? Why? Because I said so? Why? Oi, Emperor!
What is it?
One of the human factor Daleks disobeyed orders.
Unacceptable. Did you deal with the situation?
Well, no, I just left to come straight here to tell you.
What? You idiot, what are you doing? It must be eliminated. What are you doing coming to cry to me about it, you black-domed imbecile?
There was one sort of side character reveal that just didn't end up happening. Like, it looked like it was going for one thing and then it didn't. So there's this one side character who keeps hearing voices of Daleks inside their head and switching personalities every few seconds. And during a sword fight, the Doctor's like, oh, you're magnetized for some reason. So I thought, oh, okay, it's going to reveal that he's a robot of some sort. And then that reveal just never came. And he just leaves the story with all the other side characters. Also, the sudden ending was really jarring. And yes, pretty much the same ending as the Power of the Daleks, with a lone Dalek's battered eye stalk lighting up to indicate that maybe they're not all dead, but in this situation it doesn't really work. Like in Power of the Daleks, it was just one Dalek out in the open as the TARDIS goes away and its eye stalk raises and it's like, they're not all dead. But in this one, it's like, it's in the middle of a loud battlefield with explosions and stuff going off, and you only see the eye stalk light up for like a second before the credits start rolling and it cuts to black. Sudden ending aside, I'm obviously glad that this wasn't the final end of the Daleks. I mean, just thinking about it logistically, what would be the most iconic villain in Doctor Who then? The Cybermen? I love the Cybermen, but they're just guys in suits. They're nowhere near as threatening as salt and pepper shakers. I'm so sure I remember watching like a YouTube video or something that described a really good ending. It might have been one of the audiobook versions, where like, after the fighting and the explosions have stopped, in the aftermath, a faint Dalek heartbeat can be heard, with a slight rhythmic flashing of light coming from within the Dalek Emperor, illuminating the dark, smoke-covered battlefield littered with dozens of dead Daleks. Now that is an amazing ending. Oh well, I can't find that video, so I don't know who to credit for it. Okay, final thoughts. I mean, it's obviously good. I think if you're looking for a straight-up Dalek story, you could do a lot better, like Dalek Invasion of Earth or Power of the Daleks. Comparing this to Power of the Daleks is probably the most easy thing to do because they're both from the same season. Personally, I probably would go with Power of the Daleks again because it is just 6 episodes of straight Dalek mania. Whereas this one, you know, it's a slow burn to start with, and then you got 2 fantastic episodes at the end, but those 2 episodes are well worth it. And the other 5, they're not bad either. Now, for some reason I feel compelled to start putting these inside of cupboards. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. At the time of recording, I'm still recovering from COVID, so hopefully by the time this goes up, everything will be all fine. Tune in next time when we start Season 5 with Tomb of the Cybermen. In the meantime, I've snapped out of my mind control now. Does anyone need 50 mirrors? Because I don't need this many mirrors.